Hello and welcome to Mother Speaks here on UK Health Radio. We're on every week, every Saturday, and I'm Sarah Lloyd, your host. And along this week, I'm joined by the lovely Zoe Foster as my co-host. Mother Speaks is an unapologetic deep dive, occasionally stumbling, easy for me to say, right? In journey into the mother energy, from mothering children to businesses and the wisdom of Mother Earth herself. This is the show where mothers meet to speak about all things that matter, from topics across the board, from birthing babies, books, new projects, parenting kids, animals and oneself, plus all the conundrums of being a woman in this day and age. Here on the radio show and our podcast, which you can catch on wakeupmother.com, we are a collective of full creatrix at various stages of parenthood and project development. Last week, you heard us chatting with Clara and Kathy. And this week, we are joined by a special guest. We're welcoming the lovely Kate Taylor, who is the human glitter ball and the creator of Practical Magic. So welcome to Mother Speaks. How are you doing?
Good. It's all that disco ball magic. It's just like radiating out everywhere and taking your voices. Not as it's supposed to. It's all about self-expression. I'm great. Thank you for having me, both of you. And everyone listening.
Absolutely. So we are recording. We're just the other side of International Women's Day. So I'm just curious, how do you feel about all of that? Because yesterday, when it was International Women's Day, I was kind of the anti. I just didn't like the fact that it's just one flipping day.
Oh, well, you know, for me, it's every day. Absolutely every day. But I feel that it's so important to have that day to remind us, because it's so easy to get complacent, isn't it? It's so easy to just get caught up with everything. And I think having that day is a reminder that there's still so much work to be done, not just for women. Well, it is for women everywhere. Whatever your need is, whatever your challenge is, whatever your voice is that needs to be heard, it gives us the opportunity. And what I really loved about it is, you know, going on whatever social media feeds and just seeing the representation of women everywhere. So, you know, whether that's trans women, whether that's queer women, whether that's cis women, whether that's women who have a disability, it reminds you that not all women have the privilege that we do, and there's still so much to be done. And if we can raise awareness for that, even if it's just for one day, and we can see that mass swelling of support, like, I'm here for it.
Yeah. I think it's the lip service sometimes that's played to it. And I was in the midst of writing a column around kind of the celebration of the different stages of womanhood. So, you know, the fact that a lot of that rite of passage moment that we, as we grow up as women, or identify as women, it's almost marginalized a little bit. And there's this little, you know, I think we've talked about this in the past, certainly when we were writing the book around, you know, when we moved into our menarche and how, you know, that was handled. And then now how we're moving into our motherhood. And then when we move into the menopause, I mean, I've actually witnessed a few female journalists shutting down other women who are daring to offer choices that were not obviously afforded to those women who are, you know, out the other side, who probably experience. So it's almost like there's so many different ways to skin that cat, isn't there? I mean, I'm just going to stop waffling and just let you guys chat. But I mean, what do you think about all that? I mean, there's a lot of people complaining that menopause is getting too much airplay. Which...
Oh, do not even. I was on, a friend sent me something the other day, and I originally come from the Isle of Wight, which is why I host a lot of events there, and they have this news feed there, and there was something going on the Isle of Wight, which was a menopause event that was going on, and there was a comment. I feel my anger rising already. There was a comment made from a guy, not a woman, that was saying, why, I'm sick of hearing about it. You know, why are you all bleating on? You just need to get on with it. My sister, my mum all went through it and they never complained once. And I was just like, are you actually kidding me right now? Are we still, and in my in my kind of, I guess, echo chamber of empowerment for women, and I'm going through that menopause journey myself right now, and I'm surrounded by really empowering messages everywhere. I was like shocked to my core that rhetoric is still happening. And again, like I said about International Women's Day, it reminded me, it kind of shocked me out of that bubble to remind me that there is still so much work to be done. We're in 2023. Can you believe that? And we're only just in the last couple of years having these conversations about menopause.
Yeah.
It's 2023, people. And we're only just... So, no, there's no shutting it down. We're going to get louder.
Yeah, I feel like there is that kind of uprising, isn't there, of that, that background kind of thing, the toxic masculinity of just get on with it sort of message is rising up because, we are all beginning to talk about it much more. We are all being much more open and, honest about it, because why the not, and I think that's deeply unsettling.
It's so unsettling.
The masculine or the patriarchal model or whatever you want to call it, that is, it's that kind of, it's not even stoic. It's much more than that. But
and I think what's interesting is just witnessing generations, we would have been having these, and we're still having these conversations now about our periods and our bleeds, aren't we? We're only just starting to see empowering positive messages on TV ads about periods. We're still so early on in the conversation, and I think what's interesting is noticing the older, whether it is men or women, and I've seen women doing it as well. Well, I just had to get on with it. And it's but how would it have been if you were supported? And just because there is the more awareness going on now, that's only got to be a good thing. But you're right, Zoe, that toxic masculinity thing is that it's the division thing. It's saying that it has to be that there is a good and a bad about it, and you just you snowflake generations just don't know nothing. And it's oh my god, actually the reason why, because they can't talk about it, they haven't been able to talk about it.
That's it.
So they're probably,
that's it. And that's the other side of the coin, isn't it? Is that I never want this to be about, it's just all the women talking. I'm having conversations, and my husband is bringing up the subjects as well now, that I never thought we would have. And we've had, I'm not in a bad relationship by any means. It's just been the status quo.
Yeah.
And the more that we all begin to open up and have these discussions, not just the women, and not even just the married or the people who are in partnerships, or, people who have children of either sex or whatever. It's about having all of those discussions regardless of what your situation is. I think that's just...
Exactly.
It's a no-brainer.
They're clinging on to what they know to be safe.
Yeah.
But there's also this, well, what if everybody knows about that? Well, surely that's a good thing, that everybody has an awareness, and that there is this, you can talk about this freely. It's that there's definitely resistance to change, and behind that resistance is that fear of growth, isn't it?
Resistance to change. And do you know what comes up for me? The number one thing that comes up for me is just the word empathy. If we were all able to listen to each other, my partner works for a menopause product, and he's having to, he's deep dive into the world of it. And so the conversations that we've been able to have been way more empathetic, because he has a knowledge of it, which is, quite a rare thing for a man to have. But empathy is everybody needs more of it in this world right now, this angry, divisive, crazy world in which we live in. But if we were able, if somebody was able to listen, and when you're having a day where your energy's not where it is, or in my case, your brain's not where it is anymore, just going, this is how I'm feeling right now, and somebody to go, how can I help you? What can I do for you? Like, how simple would that be, rather than going, you just need to get on with it, or, you know, my mum never complained about anything. Just empathy. We've lost it.
We have. And I think that, you know, even just communicating sometimes, when, you know, we're all in that space, right? You know, sometimes I just lose, my brains just won't allow me to tell him what I need. So I have to just kind of just remove myself or cry. And he's like, oh, okay, I get it now. And actually my partner he cracks me up, because he's the one that's like, duck, it's coming, it's that week, right? Okay, I'll take the children out this weekend, this is what I'm gonna do. And it's kind of almost like the fact that he's in tune with that cycle of mine. It's quite funny. But then I used to work for a man boss who'd go, oh, have you taken your evening primrose oil? It's kind of, there are some little shifts happening, but
yeah. And it comes down to us being able to communicate our needs as well, isn't it? You know, like, I will have a conversation and say, look, this is how I'm feeling right now. And whenever you're in a dynamic of a relationship, whether it's somebody that you work with or in your home or whatever it is just having that level of understanding and going, this is how I'm feeling right now. And if I find if you find that I'm more snappy, or it's not about you. It's not, so it's kind of taking that sting out of us feeling like the wounded people if, you know, you have a reaction to it. Obviously, if they are being an idiot, you got to tell them they're being an idiot. But also, if it's that time or you're feeling in a way, it's like just sharing it, that non-violent communication. This is how I'm feeling right now. And what I need from you is this. And like, that takes so much of the sting out.
Totally.
And I wonder if some of the kind of the backlash, as it were, is, you know, is it coming from almost this kind of societal thing now that we have, and we touched upon it earlier, of we almost have to pay lip service to it because it's come up as a conversation. And, you know, over the last 3 years in particular, we've had you know, an influx of conversations about things that have been suppressed for so long. And it's almost like, I feel, are people feeling overwhelmed because it's, rather than tapping directly into empathy and connecting with people, it's almost like a tick box. It's like, oh, that's something else I have to think about. That's something else I have to be careful around and watch my words. And, you know, rather than just connecting with people.
Well, the feminist in me goes to, women had to put up and shut up with all of, you know, with what was going on for them. And therefore there's a suppression of women. Whereas when women are sharing what's going on, what they need, voicing, getting the help, getting the support, that can be quite a dangerous thing for the patriarchy, because women are no longer being suppressed. So, there's part of me that just goes, yeah, but we're getting our voices, we're getting ourselves heard, and some people don't like that, and that's always going to be a challenge. There's so much going on under the layers, isn't there? So much to unpick.
Totally time for your track, because that's a really nice segue into the next part of the show. But
isn't it?
It is. I think so. It's like we planned it. So Kate, would you do the honours and introduce the track for us?
Well, this woman is the absolute epitome of everything that I stand for in my work. It's Lizzo. My work is all about living a big, bold, beautiful life, and it's all about your creative freedom, your self-expression, and being who you are here to be. And at this time, you know what? It's about damn time. So let's do it.
UK Health Radio, the station that makes you feel good. The station that makes you feel good.
So we are back on Mother Speaks. Making Zoe cry. We're back on Mother Speaks, and I'm your host, Sarah Lloyd. I'm joined by my gorgeous co-host Zoe Foster, and also the magical Kate Taylor. So the first part of our show was a bit of a kind of a where we are with the deep feminine discussions that need to be had, and obviously a part of this show is to put words to the things that need to be shared. So Kate's work is practical and magical, and I'm not gonna go too much into this because I'm gonna show, but my showing is better, right? These are the beautiful cards that Kate has recently published. Oh, and there's some more. So you are the mama of practical magic, aren't you? So do you want to tell us a bit about what you do and the types of women that you work with?
Thank you so much for that introduction. So my work really is about practical magic and living that big, bold, beautiful life so that we can get to the full essence of who we are. But really, practical magic is about you tuning into your inner wisdom. It's about you connecting to your intuition, your creativity, and then empowering your energy to take what it is that you're getting from inside of you and shine that out into the world. So, as you beautifully shared there, everything's really vibrant. Everything's like a disco ball shining on a dance floor, because really the essence of what my work is to help people be unapologetic, for them to help really shine out who they are. I work with so many women and people who are not women as well, who are holding themselves back because of they were told that they shouldn't be this or they should be that, and all the shoulds that come up in the world, or that fear of judgment, or worrying about what people think. And the background is I used to work in advertising agency world, and I worked with the most incredible talented women in the world, and in a very male-dominated environment, they would literally shrink. And there were just the most incredible humans, the most creative humans, who would have their ideas taken away, who would be apologising because they were a mother and they had to get home to their kids. They'd work until 1 o'clock in the morning. And I'm just seeing this impact going on, and going through my own journey as well, that I was trying to work out who I was in the world. I was like, there's something in here. And I've always been somebody who really advocates for people who, if you want to do something, I'm like there with my pom-poms. I'm there like cheering you on. I believe that, people can do anything they want to do, and if there's something inside of them that is just bursting to get out, and it's hid behind these layers of those obligations, those shoulds, the stories that we hold about ourselves, I want to crack that wide open, help you get to the real juice of you inside of you, all versions of you, and bring that out. So practical magic is just a great tool that I have within my range of tools that helps you to connect to your intuition, to have a conversation with yourself, an empowering conversation with yourself. And then through the activations that are on every card, it's like you go on a bit of a journey through the mind, body, soul gym to really come to the truth of who you are and how you express yourself in the world.
Oh, that is so gorgeous.
I love it. I feel like the luckiest custodian in the world doing this work.
I think it's great because we talk about mother's intuition, and I think this is something that we've talked about on the show in the past, around the fact that we've been taught to not listen to that.
Yeah,
we've been taught to how many times have you gone, oh, my gut instinct's telling me to go left, and then you go right, and then you end up in a traffic jam. Simplest version of that in the world, but that I love the fact that the cards speak to that. It's like flexing that muscle, if you like, the one that's been switched off for so long.
Yeah. And I think especially in the world that we live in, because there's so much, just as we were talking about earlier, there's so much noise, isn't there? There's so many different opinions. There's so many, you can go to AI, you can go to Siri, you can get answers in a nanosecond from Google, you can go to friends, family, Instagram, wherever, and you can ask a question that you're not listening to yourself, and then get even more confused by the absolute barrage of information that comes through, that then there's that complete disconnection from your own trust. And I see that so much everywhere. And when we've got that relationship with ourselves and we can trust our innate wisdom, life just becomes a little bit, I don't want to say easier, because it can be challenging as well, but you're on the path that is right for you.
Yeah, I love that, because, I think as women in particular, we have lived lives, ancestral lives of deferring to an authority, of deferring to a male authority, typically. And what you were saying about, when you were in advertising and the women would shrink, because it's like, well, yeah, of course, the women are always deferring to the men who take the limelight. And it made me think of, why is that? Kind of, if we can, maybe looking beyond the typical male-female divide, why is it that men seem to thrive in the spotlight as like, the guru kind of figure, whereas women tend to prefer to be in community rather than being that kind of the figurehead? That fascinates me.
Yeah, and it's it goes right back to the dawn of time, really, the dawn of the human being, because women were, their role was to tend the fire. It was to bring up the families, wasn't it? It was to sit around in community, and the hunter-gatherer would go out and do what they would do. And what I'm really fascinated by is like how that still is within us now. And that also the safety thing, because what would happen as well, I'm sure you've heard this before, but if a woman wasn't accepted, then she was cast out of the community. And when you're cast out of a community, where in the wilderness, like, you're going to die. Like, it's that. Yeah. And so that's what happened all the way through time. It happened with the witches. When a woman's not taught to play a role and have this sense of belonging and behaving, she's cast out. And when you're cast out, that's a dangerous place to be. And we still have it now, don't we? What if I'm not liked? What if I say something and somebody picks me up? I mean, talking about International Women's Day, Natalie Lee, Star on Me Sunday, she put up a really powerful post that was like, listen, bad stuff still is going on with women, just in terms of this toxicity. And when you are going against the grain, you're going to, and then my friend Caroline was talking about a lot of women especially who I work with, are afraid to have their voices heard in case they get this, but what if I get trolled? What if somebody doesn't agree with me? So that sense of not belonging is still really active within us now, isn't it?
And unfortunately, it's so much more prevalent with women who do dare to stand out. If you just look at Instagram, as a case study, women are trolled vastly more than any men that choose to have, big followings, etc. Yeah. And it is about taking them down. It's about, trying to squash them, basically.
It is interesting. I mean, looking at it from kind of putting on my PR hat, though, and, the spiritual growth hat, is one thing I would always teach my clients is, if you're triggering somebody, that is a good thing, because it's making them think differently. Yes, it's not very nice for you if you're the recipient of that, trolling, not very nice language, whatever it is. But I almost feel like they're triggered for a reason. It's almost like they're either jealous or there's something they've not, it's all theirs. It's completely all theirs. And I think that's almost like we need to kind of learn to stay in our sovereignty around that. And yes, that it does happen. Yes, women are evil to women. That's that, witch wound, whatever you want to call it. I guess that's where I think there's this rising of circles of women that are coming together with their hearts wide open, who are in no judgment, who are having frank conversations and just open to learning. And I think that, you know, I see that in your practical magic sessions. When I attended one when I was at the Awakening, and, you know, sitting in circle with you guys now, like, you know, no one's come in with judgment. We're all sitting here just, you know, rolling this stuff over our tongues, if you like, experimenting with it, playing with it, if you like. And I think that's where there's this whole playful, joyful energy that we could all be adopting a little bit more. But then there's this dark stuckness where it's, no, let's be mean. Let's go into our fight. You know, we don't have to fight. We can soften.
Yeah, and it's so true. And the sovereignty thing's really important, isn't it? And that's why, you know, when we're talking about being a mother and what being a mother actually means, I don't have children myself, but I'm a mother to my community. So like you just said, practical magic, I have a coach facilitation program with the deck, so I train people to become coaches. And it's not just about the training, it's about, it's a bit of a hackney saying, but we're a family, and I'm a mother of that family. So my coaches are part of my family, and I care for them as what I see a mother role to be. I will hold that space for them. I will help them in any way I can. I will nurture them. I will support them. I will let them make their mistakes and help them. You know, we're all about helping each other to grow. And I think what's so important about that, and I have a lot of people coming into, whether I'm doing a retreat, a program, a training, a lot of women who come in and they say, I'm afraid to be in spaces with women because I had such a negative experience when I was growing up. And like, as a mother and somebody who cares passionately about women and helping women to grow and flourish, I'm going to make sure that does not happen in my spaces. So I'm, you know, like fierce mama bear around it. And so that everybody can come in with all that they are, all of their strength, their vulnerability, all of it, and be heard and seen and felt in those spaces, so that when that other stuff is going on outside of our circle, that they know that there's a safe space for them to be. And that safe space is really, really blooming important, isn't it?
It's essential, because the more that we can find that safety for ourselves and for the remothering of ourselves, the more that we can go out into the world and be that for our communities, rather than just that instinctive judgment, that is instinctive criticism that is kind of being bred into us almost of, oh, she's a bit on the fat side, or
and where does that all come from? All of that rhetoric all comes from a patriarchal system of suppressing women, because we don't want women to shine. We don't want women to be more than. So, oh my God, these spaces are so important.
Really important. I mean,
I totally agree.
And like with the triggering and going back to the triggering piece, I mean, we had that with the mother book, didn't we, Zoe? And I think so much. It was, but it was the point where we were in that emotional maturity where we could sit there and go, "You're triggering me right now. This is really uncomfortable." And you didn't feel like you were going to get stabbed in the back, or, you know, someone's going off to have another conversation over there about that person. You know, that didn't happen. Everyone was very open. And I think that it's interesting that somewhere along the line we've been taught these sidelining, so, you know, having these sidelines over here, or, you know, having those, I don't know, the mother's meet that, you know, you go off and talk about your nail varnish and then have a moan about the neighbours and all of that kind of stuff. I feel like that's so old hat now. We don't need that anymore in our lives.
I was literally just going to say, I saw an advert on our local Facebook notice board advertising a new app for meeting other women, like especially like mums and stuff, instead of the traditional kind of let's go along to, you know, toddler play or whatever it is. actually making friends with other women, which I loved, because it's like, it's hard.
How refreshing. Yeah.
Isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah. But I think we're in a fortunate position that because we are doing this work, we understand, the self-awareness piece is really important. It comes back to, that being triggered. Everybody gets triggered, but it's when we can go, I'm feeling triggered right now, and it's not your fault. There's something in me I've got to work through. And actually, do you know what? I'm going to share that here. And even that conversation can be uncomfortable. It's like, but I'm just going to work this through. And once we have more of those conversations, we can stop being triggered and going, and it's your fault. God, look at road rage. I mean, we could go right off on one, but I just see it all around me all the time. People being triggered everywhere by all their stuff, and it's your fault. And it's like, how refreshing would it be for us to be in these spaces and go, I'm feeling triggered right now. It's not you. Like, something that has been said I'm taking self-responsibility. And, in these conversations around how women relate to other women and how the world relates to women, how women relate to the world, there's that, how can we be responsible for what we're doing? And if somebody is feeling that their need is to go and take another woman down, what responsibility are they taking there for themselves?
It's a really good time to introduce another track, I think. Not that I'm a timekeeper or anything, but
UK Health Radio, the station that makes you feel good. UK Health Radio, the station that makes you feel good.
Hello, and we are back with Mother Speaks. We've got the gorgeous, magical Kate Taylor with us today, and we're carrying on our conversation. What were we talking about, ladies?
Oh, just like ruling the world, I think.
Yeah, everything. Everything. It's my favourite kind of conversation.
I guess one question that comes up for me, I don't know if we have any men listening. It would be really interesting to find out. Please get in touch. For any men listening right now, like, what other than, being open to the conversations and having them with our women folk, what do we want them to know? What do we really want them to know right now?
What do we want the men to know?
Yeah.
That it's okay, that they're okay, that, and I'm sorry, I don't mean that to sound condescending to anybody that's listening, but if we can open and have more engaging conversation, we can get to know each other so much better, and get to know what everybody's needs are, rather than feeling like there's a divide. And there's some incredible men out there who are supporting women. I've been so overwhelmed with the launch of the deck. There was just the most amazing humans who, and I've got to give a shout out to this guy Martin who did a review of the deck, and his literally cannot do more to support the work that I'm doing. And he's like, anything you need, anything at all, because I truly believe in what you're doing. And to hear that I'm like, yes, there is an ally. There's somebody who really, really gets it. So, and it's the same the other way. It's like, if we all can learn from each other, then we can all do more to support each other, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I think there's this big pendulum swing that kind of went on, wasn't it? Where the feminine rose, and then it was almost like down with the patriarchy. But it's actually, and I'm guessing that probably felt, if you were a guy, that wouldn't have been nice either, right? It's kind of down with the men. It's like, but
yeah, we
know that we need a balance, and I guess that's the thing. It's like we need a balance of the masculine and the feminine, whether it's in you as an individual, because we have that energy flowing through us anyway, or whether it's in union with a man, or however it transcends. But It's interesting you brought that question up, Zoe, because like you were talking about the menopause and the men and how they need to deal with it. What I'm loving at the moment is my husband, they do like free webinars at his work, and one of them was on menopause, and he was like, oh, I missed it, I really wanted to go and listen and understand a bit more about what the hell's coming down the track. I was kind of, well, if you get the recording we can watch.
I was going to say I'd be really interested to know how they cover it.
Yeah, and I think that's it. It's the thing, like we watched the Davina McCall documentary that was on. I was a little bit, it was a bit too in the farmer camp for me, but the fact that they did offer a splinter of other options available, I felt it was quite nice to be sitting there with my partner watching that, because having two small children, navigating perimenopause when you're having a hot flush and you're trying to get to the school and it's like, oh my god, everything, I just can't handle it. It's I guess a lot of the women that you're working with, Kate, fall into that camp as well. And it's learning to juggle all that stuff.
Yeah.
It's like the practices of working with your intuition, the grounding, the meditation. I've never more needed to actually use practices like that. Like, your art therapy, Zoe, and Akoya, of course. So, I mean, what do you tend to kind of veer towards when you're having a hot, I
think it comes back to what I was talking about earlier, is verbalizing and asking for support. And that, I know for a lot of people that's not an easy thing to do, and because of the mental load, but it's different forms of communication, right, isn't it? So a lot of the time what I hear is that women have to literally spell out the things that are needed to be done, but we've got to get better at asking for what our needs are, rather than going, well, I'm expecting them to do something, or I'm expecting my husband or my partner or whatever to just see that I'm struggling. It's like, they're not going to do that. And so for us, like that, being able to verbalize that self-expression thing, which is so important, is saying, I'm creaking right now, and what I need from you is this and this and this, and you might need some help for me to guide you to how to do that. But also, one of the things that we've got to really do, which is the hardest thing in the world, is give up some of the control about how we like it done. So, it's like, how do we get to compromise and meet in the middle a little bit more, where we're asking for what we need, but actually really clearly defining it, and knowing that we think and feel differently. There is, literally different forms of communication. So how can we meet each other on a level where we can understand and hear each other better and ask for what we need?
It's definitely a women thing, isn't it? We kind of walk around thinking men know exactly what we're thinking, and they should know that I need that done.
Well, actually, I was going to say, what that makes me think of is we're modeling that for our men folk then as well, because I, for one, my husband for years has really, really struggled with expressing what he needs. He just goes straight to being really pissed off, basically, really frustrated, and then taking it out with whoever's around him, slamming doors and so on. But over the last 2 years, he's got so much better about saying, look, I'm feeling overwhelmed, I'm feeling underappreciated, can somebody help me? And so the more that we're doing that, the more that we're modeling that, it's not a gender thing. It's, literally saying it's okay for you to be in your feminine and ask for what you want, and for that to be, reciprocated.
Yeah. Well, one thing, and that's so important, and thank you for sharing that. It's a really beautiful thing for somebody to be able to express their feelings. One of the things my partner and I do now, because we've had a challenging few years, and as most people have with, what's been going on in the world, well, one of the things that we do now is that we actually take time out together, even if it's just a half an hour or an hour every week, and just have a check-in with each other. And rather than, you know, and we're very, very trying, I'm not perfect, definitely not perfect, but rather than when you're annoyed about something, rather than going it's like, this is how I'm feeling. So that beautiful language of I'm feeling frustrated, I'm feeling underappreciated, you know, then it's just like, let's have a conversation about that. So yeah, we do a check-in thing. It's just like, how's your week been? How are you feeling? What's been good? What's not been good? Where are you creaking right now? How can I support you? Like, it's a game changer.
Yeah, and on that note, I think I'd like to add as well, we've definitely got better at doing something similar. It tends to be a little bit more ad hoc, but what we will do is check in with the energy of the moment. So if we're both tired and, you know, a bit cranky or whatever, or there's just a bit of a kind of, you know, this is maybe a bit too heavy right now, we both know now's not the moment, but we might say, can we just like check in on this thing, or just check in together, maybe not mention what it is, tomorrow, or, you know, at a more suitable time. And I love that, because it's honoring energies rather than just, you know, reacting in the moment.
Yeah, that's super powerful.
Yeah, I'm just thinking back to we've started doing that a little bit more, where we'll have dinner together, and we'll kind of either we can kind of, I mean, even yesterday my husband came home and he was like, you look a bit cross behind the eyes. Are you okay? I was like, do you want me to tell you? Have you got bandwidth for me to tell you, or shall we talk about this another time? And yeah, well, I mean, we've started to learn that, yeah, is this a good time to share? Is this not a good time to share? It's kind of, it's interesting. That's happening in our circles.
That's so powerful, isn't it? I've got the most passive aggressive kitchen in the world, where, you know, when I get really frustrated, I can't slam the kitchen cupboards anymore. They get soft closed to them. So I'm like, that's taking the sting out of that then, isn't it?
That's kind of frustrating.
I love that. Oh god. One thing I would say as well, Sarah, is I quite a long time ago, actually, now I said to my family, no heavy like discussion topics at meal times, because we're trying to digest food here. You know, we're trying to relax and, you know, just be as a family. And so often somebody would ask a question, or like, you know, even just like logistics, say, oh, what's happening with this? And it's quite stressful. For me, it is. Thinking about logistics is stressful. So I've just said, we don't talk about any practicalities or anything heavy at meal times. It's just, you know, being together, connecting, nothing more.
I'm taking all of these. This is great.
It's also like, you know, there was this whole big thing around having a date night, making sure you're connecting. That just all for me just it becomes too much sometimes. It's almost like you were saying, just having a gentle check-in every couple of days. Like, because there are days when I don't want to be in the same room as him, because I'm done with people. It's like, I want to just go in my room, read my book, and he just wants to watch whatever telly he wants to watch. And I think it's okay to give each other loads of space. Like you say, I think the last few years have given us that gift of, we were all on top of each other, you know.
Yes.
To find space in that togetherness that was enforced. And it's kind of, we are now starting to learn, like, you know, we have space. There are places where we can go. I can go for a walk. He can, you know, there's...
I think that's so healthy in a relationship. Otherwise it's codependency, isn't it? It's like, it's being able to say, look, I love you, and the way that I can love myself most in this moment is by taking myself and just having time out.
Yeah.
And it doesn't mean anything about you. It's just that I just really need to not people right now.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And that's interesting, that word codependent, because again, that just brings me right back to, that is kind of our conditioning of relationships, of being married. It's, you are codependent.
It's heteronormative, isn't it? It's like saying that man and woman, you know, the heteronormative narrative is man and woman get together, they stay together forever and ever and ever, and they have kids, and that's how the society works. Well, we're not like that.
And in terms of the roles, so that, typically, for example, like the man comes home and he's got his dinner on the table, and, the woman gets the breadwinnings from the man. And, there's so much codependency kind of conditioned in there. And it's like, can we just take this apart a little bit and examine it? Because it doesn't need to be like that.
And in the world that we live in, it doesn't work. It just doesn't.
Oh, God,
work.
No.
Does it? Those days are gone.
Yeah, well, now it's, both people in the relationship typically need to work just to afford the rent or the mortgage or whatever else, plus the bills. And, it's crazy.
It has to be a balance. It's funny, you're talking about like the 50s housewife making sure the dinner's on the table. I mean, that was something I got really resentful for around the lot, being at home all the time. The cooking needed to be done. But I've kind of got to this point now where I'm out the other side, I think. And it's the other day, I mean, he's been in the office for a few days and, that doesn't happen very often. But where he's been coming home, I've actually really wanted to make sure he's fed. There's this feeling of I love you and I want to look after you right now because you look absolutely exhausted.
Yeah.
But I think when it becomes a sense of duty, there's the resentment does creep in there. So that's definitely a shift. There's a shift for me personally anyway. But, when it's my job every single day to cook dinner and people don't eat it, that's the other, that's the flip side of being a mother, right? So,
but again, that can be reciprocal. So again, it's not about gender. It's about embracing all aspects of us. Last night, Matt came home and he made us a gorgeous curry. And it's like, that's amazing. Thank you. Because I get so sick of trying to think of like what to feed everybody. And like typically my children want completely different things. And it's like, it's a lot. But we can look after each other.
Yeah, and that's the thing. It's like, it's when there's an expectation. And even if it's an unspoken expectation, and it might be that the other, somebody is there who doesn't even recognise or realise that expectation is there or that weight is there. So again, it's opening conversations. Like those check-in points are so important. And if you're there, if you're having to do that 7 days a week, and it's like, I don't enjoy doing this. I would love it if we could share this.
Yeah.
My partner, I mean, we're lucky. We don't, I've got stepchildren. They don't live with us. So, but we both work from home. So we both share that because often I'm working in the evening with client sessions. So if I'm doing that, he does it. And, we just balance it out because why wouldn't we?
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yeah. What a strange old world we're living in at the moment.
We could say that every day for the rest of our lives. Strange old world we live in.
So, I guess there's just one more thing I wanted to ask you, Kate. How can people work with you? How can they find you? What is it?
So what I've got alive at the moment is obviously the Practical Magic deck, which you can buy at all of your favourite online retailers. And that's global, by the way, which is so exciting.
I love the way you just dropped that one in there.
Yeah. It's just global now, babes. And that's just amazing because it means that, you can buy it in Australia, you can buy it in Canada, you can buy it in the US. And my big mission is to train as many coaches as possible around the world in whatever work that you do, whether you're working with somebody on a one-to-one, whether you're wanting to host circle, however. But importantly, I want to take this work into the workplace. I want to take empathy, compassion, intuition, and do that in the workplace so that we can change the structure of how we relate to each other at work and how people are really supported. So if anybody's out there and you're like, I'm listening to this and I think this would be amazing in my workplace, get in contact with me. My website's katetaylor.co. So I've got the trainings opening up in the next couple of weeks for coach facilitation training. I run that twice a year. But yeah, I've got other things that I do. So I've got an incredible program called Kickstart Your Big, Bold, Beautiful Life, which there's a book coming out about that in September. And the Expansion Academy, which is a business expansion academy for change makers, people leaders, well-being, love warriors.
Amazing. So just a few things then.
Just a few things. Keeps me busy.
Well, we've had a fantastic time chatting with you today, Kate, and thank you for coming on the show. If you've enjoyed listening to this episode of Mother Speaks, tell your friends, share the links. There's lots of links. They're on our website. They're also on UK Health Radio and the podcast stream of all the major platforms. You'll find us everywhere if you search for Mother Speaks. We also have a Spotify playlist handy called Mother Speaks, containing tracks from the shows so far, and these ones will be added. We are part of the Wake Up Mother community, and you can find out more about us on wakeupmother.com or on our interactive portal wakeupmother.substack.com, where you can catch up with the latest news, and you can also hear the conversation that we continue to have after this show ends. So Mother Speaks Unplugged is available as a podcast as well. Thanks again to my co-host, the lovely Zoe, and to Kate, and for being part of Mother Speaks, and to you for obviously listening. Up next on UK Health Radio's rolling stream of healthy shows is the Menopause Sisters. So that's quite apt considering what we were discussing. So remember, you have a vast, untapped, fertile field of mother energy within you, regardless of what or how you choose to mother. It's just waiting to be honoured by you, for you, and the rich families you are co-creating. And that is it. Thank you so much for listening.